So welcome everyone to this GLT Fireside Chat event. Very excited to introduce this event for the holidays, and it's great to have the entire GLT here to really talk about the direction that they're going in for the new year and really introduce themselves to you all as well. So the GLT is the global leadership team, and we'll kind of go roundtable. Everyone can introduce themselves. For currently those who are in university, like you guys can say where you're calling in from, what university you attend, your major, what year you're in, any details you want to share. So we can start with Ingrid.
Thank you, Rebecca. Hi, everyone. So I'm Ingrid. I'm the CEO at Project Access. This is my second year as the CEO, and I've been in Project Access for about 4 years now. Outside of Project Access, and I'm going to talk a little bit what my role entails, but outside of Project Access, I also do a master at University of Oxford in environmental change and management. And right now I'm sitting in rainy Norway, and that's where I'm calling in from.
Awesome. Irona?
Hello, everyone. I'm Arona. I am the Global Director of Talent, so a fancy way of human resources. And I study philosophy, politics, and economics in my third year at King's College London, and currently I am in London.
That's lovely. How's Christmas like in London? Like, how's the vibe?
Lots of lights, lots of mini Christmas markets, lots of tiny Christmas parties. It's really fun. Everyone should try and be in London for Christmas once. It's a vibe.
Feel free to throw it to the next person. Just pick someone.
Edison.
Hey everyone, my name is Edison and I'm the Global Director of Finance and Legal. I recently graduated from the University of Warwick with a degree in Management with Finance, and I'll pass it on to Andy.
Thank you, Edison. My name is Andy. I am currently the Global Director of Campus Operations for Project Access, and I'm also a junior at Stanford University studying International Relations. Currently, I'm calling in from Virginia, where my parents live, but most of you can find me in California, which is where I would say I'm from. How about we pass it to Jasmine?
Thanks, Andy. Hi, everyone. I'm Jasmine. I am the Global Director of Partnerships for Project Access, with a role which I recently started about 6 months ago. Recently, I just finished my master's in biochemistry, and I'm working full-time running a biosecurity and pandemic risk organization. And I'll pass it to Liam.
Hello, everyone. I'm Liam, Global Director of Outreach here at PA. I'm dialing in from New Haven, and I'm a second year here at Yale. And I will be going back to London for a London Christmas. Looking forward to that. Harrison, next is you, I think.
Hi, I'm Harrison. I am also a student at Yale. I study history here at Project Access. I'm the Chief Product Officer, so everything to do with mentees and impact and getting them into universities is my responsibility. And I'm currently dialing in from New York.
Lovely. And I forgot to introduce myself. So I'm Rebecca. I'm the Global Head of Marketing at TA, and I'm calling in from Toronto, Canada, and I go to Schulich, and I'm a third-year student. So why don't we just get straight into it? Like, how many individuals can be on the GLT in general, and why would someone want to be on the GLT or apply to that position? Just because I know we do have one up currently.
Maybe I should start with this one. So the GLT, the reason why I would encourage everyone to join the GLT at one point when the positions are open is because it's an incredibly inspiring group of people to work with. And it's always been that for 5 years now since we started the organization. And in addition to that, you have a lot more overview of the organization. You set the direction in addition, together with the rest of the GLT, you set the direction for where the organization should go in that year that you're in the position. And personally, I've never been challenged or had more fun than when I've worked together with people in the GLT. So I think it's an incredible position to be in, or a team to be in. to talk about how you get there. And I would love to hear from the people in the group to hear how the experience went. But each year we open up the positions around the summertime for the roles, and people have approximately a year tenure in the GLT, sometimes longer if they want to stay. And now we have Edison's role up because he's been here for 12 months and he's working full time. So he's stepping down, unfortunately, but we're really excited about getting someone new in and someone for Edison to train to be the next GD of Finance and Legal.
Yeah, awesome. So maybe like actually, Edison, we'll go straight to you. You know, tell us a little bit about what you do, and because you know, you're recruiting for your role essentially. And yeah, we'll start there.
Cool. So breaking down like the finance and legal team, we can split it into 3 sub-teams. The first is the accounting and finance team that looks after bookkeeping and working with our accountants. And we're also looking to expand this team to work on some financial analytics that will provide us with a better understanding of how money is spent and how we can make the most of each dollar. The second team is the legal and compliance team that looks after legal projects like safeguarding and data protection. And the third is the grants team that researches and applies for grants. So as the global director of this team, my role is essentially to support my team members and allow them to do the best that they can while tying in their work with the wider needs of the organization. And as Ingrid said, I'll be stepping down from my role come 2022. So if you're looking to do something meaningful while working with some amazing people, you can apply on our website. And if you have any questions, feel free to email Ingrid. Her email is on the job posting on our website. So if you know anyone as well who might be interested, let them know.
Yeah, and it sounds very like a very intellectually stimulating position. So I love how you highlighted that. But also, how have you gone about ensuring that PA is financially sustainable, and like what has been the biggest challenge in that PA has faced in that realm, being a nonprofit?
So I think we can look at this in terms of expenses and income. In terms of expenses, ensuring that we spend within our planned budget, which we're actually in the middle of doing right now for next year, and make sure that every dollar that we spend, be it on a subscription, event, or marketing, is worth its while, as well as thinking creatively about what resources we have apart from money. In this regard, we're very fortunate to have extremely smart, driven, and passionate volunteers who are all invaluable to PA success. And in terms of income, we're constantly looking to expand and diversify our income sources. So this includes the aforementioned grants team, crowdfunding campaigns, and a variety of other new income sources that Ingrid, Jasmine, and I have been working on together with a financial advisory board. And finally, Jasmine's team is also doing some great work securing new funding on the partnerships end.
Yeah, sounds lovely. And I love how it's all very interconnected between all of you. So like you kind of help each other. It's not separate, which is great to hear. Let's kind of jump around here and let's go to Irona. What has been a recent, very exciting initiative that Talent has introduced, and how do you anticipate that it will pan out in 2022?
Love how from interconnectedness you went to Talent, because that's literally what we do. We are the service team of the organization and help every single team member fulfill their potential within Project Access. And we also vet the people that come into Project Access too. So if you apply for a GD of Finance, you're going to go through us first. But one really interesting and really exciting initiative that we have launched in the last couple of months, and we're going to be continuing into 2022, is we have transformed the training team into the talent growth team. So that means where previously we just did one-on-one trainings or group trainings or any kind of different training specifically for one thing or one key value that we wanted our team to have. Now we are kind of revamping it and calling it talent growth for the reason that we think in Project Access, you have more than one kind of growth and one kind of training. It's actually three pillars essentially that the team has, which is, one is obviously professional growth. So as Ingrid already said, there's hardly any other organization where you can get so much responsibility so quickly, like in Project Access, and you can make so much impact so rapidly and like so profoundly, really. So we want to support that, and we want to support professional growth as well as in project access, also outside of it. Second is personal growth. And this entails knowing how to manage your time, knowing how to plan, knowing how to think long-term, knowing how to be a critical analyzer, knowing how to give feedback and how to receive it, these kinds of soft skills as well. And finally, well-being of teams and of individuals, which obviously in times of the pandemic, we realize how important that is. But also before, it's always incredibly important. And yeah, in team settings, that means making sure that the team is sustainable, making sure that it's enough people working on the right kinds of things, making sure the structures within it, the managerial structures are good. And on an individual setting, that means knowing when to take time off, knowing how to take time off, knowing how to structure your job in a sustainable manner and make sure that you're actually delegating as much as you can, but also empowering other people to do as much as they can and all of that. And that's going to be talent growth, essentially. So we help our organization grow alongside our incredible expansion teams, and also upkeeping all the incredible expansion we've done in the last years as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And I recently spoke with someone on the talent growth team, and I'm so excited for this project really to come into fruition and see it come alive very, very soon. Because I think it's so great, and you're talking about empowering that growth amongst our team members. That's something that you don't see in too many organizations nowadays. And I love how we're taking like a huge focus on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and let's move on to Harrison. As CPO, what has been something that you've been looking to innovate within the product teams to make our programs more effective and to bring in more mentees?
Thanks. That's a good question. I think within the program teams, a particular focus we've had this year has been on financial aid. Following, Brexit, it's become a lot more difficult for international students to go to the UK, and everyone knows how expensive the US is. So we've taken the approach of recruiting what we call specialist mentors to build up content and do webinars and supply sort of like direct mentorship to our mentees to help them find scholarships and financial aid for each of their programs. And in addition, last year and going forward into the spring, we have expanded into Europe and European universities, which are typically cheaper both for European students and for international students. So I think that's the main problem we've been sort of countering, and the main pivot we've had to make in our impacts in the past year.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. And we'll definitely touch on that EU expansion very, very soon. But thank you so much for kind of giving us a little bit of a taster into that. And we'll go to Jasmine. What has been like one of the most exciting partnerships to date, in your opinion? And what do you look for when forging new partnerships? Because that's very exciting.
Yeah, that's a great question, Rebecca. So for me, I think, we've worked with such a range of partners ever since I started in Project Access, and individuals who led the partnerships team even before me. And for me, I think the most exciting part is the fact that, when we talk about supporting a student into university, it's not as easy as, submit an application and get in. There's a lot of roadmaps and roadblocks that a young person has to navigate, from the application to the interview to sorting out their accommodation once they accept their offer. There's a lot of barriers. So something the partnership team has been looking into is trying to work really closely with like Harrison's team, for example, and understand, in terms of all of the range of support we can provide to a student to make a really comprehensive support package, what are the bits we're missing, and how do we cover that? And for us, that's meant, looking at partnerships that help people sort out their student finance, or sort out, their accommodation offers, or sorting out their banking, for example, because that's, little things when you're international students you need to figure out. So for me, that's always a very exciting element. And when it comes to working with partners, I think I'm not going to overcomplicate it. Partnerships is people at a basic level. And I think, it doesn't matter if we're talking to corporates or big nonprofits or charities, the enthusiasm a partner brings for supporting young people and supporting our mission, I think it comes across really well. And usually those are the most exciting conversations I get to have, and can't believe I get to do this as well. So for me, like recognizing that somebody understands our values and understands the bigger why of like, you know, this is how we operate and these are the reasons why we choose to operate this way. Connecting those dots for me is really important. So yeah, there's a huge range in terms of what I call partnerships, but people always comes first in that regard.
I think that's so great that you mentioned also that there's like that support package that we work on so hard behind the scenes to create, because you know, like we're not just a nonprofit organization that gets students into these universities and sort of are like, go on, fly little birds, like, you know, go on and you know, figure everything out yourself. So we really do a lot of work to support them along the way. And I love how, you know, there's so much work on your end and you're working so hard to make all of these partnerships happen that really do make it easier on our students, on our mentees. So we'll go to Andy. If we're talking a little bit about like mentees, we'll go there. So how do you plan to expand to more campuses and what makes an effective campus team?
Yeah, so great questions, Rebecca. And we've just about finalized our new plans to expand into new European universities. And I'll hold off on disclosing what exact universities these are as of yet, but I can talk a little bit about some of the factors that we looked for when we were expanding. So one of the big factors and components, of course, is the tuition costs and scholarship availability for international students. So a lot of our mentees come from disadvantaged socioeconomic backgrounds, and so we really want to take that into consideration when, you know, looking to expand our offerings to new universities that they can go to. And other factors that we looked for were about how difficult or easy the applications were. So the more difficult the application system might be, the more value we can add by having volunteers from that university support mentees. To talk a little bit about campus teams, I think the thing that makes for a strong campus team in my experience is just having a diversity of individuals from different backgrounds who all hold a passion for project access in one way or another. So maybe they have a passion for teaching and education as a field in general, or maybe they're really interested in working in social impact at a startup. But whatever it is, if we have a group of students at a university who can connect into these different kinds of value propositions for project access, I think we're really effective at recruiting mentors from that university.
Yeah, that's a great answer, Andy. And you know, I'm glad that you mentioned a little bit about the applications, because we're actually going to be going into it with Anna very soon on an IGTV Live, like, and we'll be discussing the back end things or details around that. So by the time this goes live, it'll already be up. So go check it out on our Instagram. Just a little plug there. But I love also how you mentioned passion, because that's very important. And it's something that we look for in all team members, and all of them have an overwhelming amount of passion that they bring to the table. And in that vein, I'd love to ask Ingrid, you know, as CEO, how do you foster that positive work environment for the GLT, but also like PA as a whole? And, you know, you're working with a lot of university students, and we recruit a lot of university students. And how do you kind of maintain that balance so that everyone doesn't feel overwhelmed on the GLT, I guess?
Yeah, I think this is a huge learning. I think throughout the 2 years I've been in the CEO position, but also when I was in the GLT the year before that, it's been different approaches to how we've tried to foster a good work environment in our team. This year, I honestly think we were very successful. This group is really well connected. I have to say that I think the emphasis I put, at least in the beginning, that over communication and over emphasis on sort of transparency of the projects you work on is really important to foster that trust between the individuals in our team. So the first few months we had in this new group, in the new global leadership in July and August, we spent a lot of time building those connections between each of the GLT members, and everyone meets up outside of our weekly check-in call. Everyone meets up as well to have individual check-ins, and also communicate clearly on what they're working on and maybe what's overlapping between areas. You should always inform people if it overlaps. So I think that's one of the things I've learned, because this has not always been the case, Rebecca. It's been a thing that we've learned over time, that communication can be an element for frustration if you under communicate, and if you communicate in a way that's not sympathetic, I guess. But I think another area where I at least hope, and I know I've gotten feedback from the GLT members, I try to foster a good environment, is to give a lot of ownership away. And a lot of that ownership, each of us and the GLT members have ownership of their areas. They're the ones who make the final decision. I do give my opinions, and I give sometimes strong opinions, but I do think in general the ownership lies with each of the GLT members. And I also try to foster that decision making into sort of long-term consequences of each things we do, and trying to analyze at least like what is the long-term effect of each of the projects. How can we make this sustainable in the long run if you build up a team or if you create a new project in each of the teams. And the last thing I want to say, because I just think this is very tangible for anyone who wants to be in the GLT themselves or manage a big team, is that feedback has become a really core thing of what we do this year and what I spend time with the GLT. I had a feedback call this morning with Arona. It lasted an hour. We evaluated the half a year we've been in this team and work together now. And I have a monthly call with everyone in the GLT to talk about some of our frustrations, what we should improve on, what we're doing really well on, and getting both that positive and I guess negative feedback that we can improve on. And this becomes, I think, easier in the long run to have a positive and open communication. And to just quickly answer the last one, it's not easy. Balancing the commitment and drive we have in Project Access, where we in reality want to spend 40 hours a week on doing the work we do, is not possible all the time, and it's also not possible most of the time to spend that much time. So we try to encourage breaks, which I think one of my emphasis when I check in with everyone around their challenges is to emphasize how with calmness, what is a fire, and try to analyze if something needs to be a stress factor or if it's something that we will just solve. And I think it's very easy in the line of work that we do, where we have so much going on across the organization, to feel like all small challenges feels like a fire you need to solve ASAP. And that's just not the case. We are just trying to do good. And if we prioritize in a week, you can always solve some issues the week after or even the month after. And that's one of the things I try to embed when we come to like balancing uni and work, because taking care of your own education is important when we are trying to solve education inequality.
Right, absolutely. And I love your answer. And I think I want to definitely highlight a few key takeaways that I heard in there. Well, for one, those feedback calls, so effective for anyone who's like in an organization. Definitely think about implementing those. And, that's something that has worked, at least for me, so well. Liam and I do them. For anyone who doesn't know, he's my boss. So we do those monthly as well. So they've been super effective. But also that I love how you mentioned, that you're giving a lot of ownership to everyone over their own projects and over what they're working on. And it's kind of like Arona said, you don't get a lot of people our age in organizations to really take on projects this big and lead them through to completion. So I think that's awesome. And lastly, like also that point about trust. And I think this will dovetail nicely into my next question, because with trust comes like risk that you can take. Once you trust your team members, there's also risks that they can take when they have that trust. So Liam, I have a question to you. What's been the biggest risk that you've taken in terms of outreach?
Yeah, good question. Thanks, Rebecca. Something that felt like quite a risk at the time. In hindsight, I don't know how much of a risk it was. I'm very happy I did it. But was when I stepped into the role, quite consciously disbanding some of the structure and pre-existing notions within the global marketing team we have, and kind of, as you say, like trusting yourself to rebuild that in a way that I would prefer. so that felt like a risk because it meant kind of, yeah, admitting that I wanted to start from scratch and not necessarily using everything that was already there and continuing from it, and kind of having to trust myself and yourself to really like rebuild things. So that felt like quite a risk at the time, but looking back now, I think it was certainly the correct decision.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think as it pertains to marketing, I think one of the things that you said to me that really stuck was, you know, I want you to be drastically different. And I absolutely love that. And I think that's like one of those little mantras that I live by every day when it comes to PA. You know, you want to make a difference, you want to be different, you want to differentiate, you want to innovate. So it's all of those things. And I love how you take a point in emphasizing that. And I think that's so great. But yeah, like now also like just a general question for anyone who wants to answer. Can we touch on our expansion initiatives? Because I feel like we've been hinting at it all throughout this call. So what are the EU and Africa expansion projects that are currently in the pipeline? Anyone can like unmute themselves and just.
I can jump in for PA Africa, which is our African expansion. What this is us testing out a completely new and exciting model for what our mentee outreach could look like. So traditionally we have country teams, which is essentially a base of PA in one specific country, and they're performing targeted outreach to mentees in that country. And that has been successful in some ways, but also unsuccessful in other ways. So with PA Africa, we're not only we jumping into a completely new region where we have no existing presence in Africa, we're also trying out this new model where we're going to be working in multiple different countries across this African region, and trying to do that leveraging partners and performing outreach through partner orgs that we identify and get in contact with. So it's a kind of new model, very exciting to try out, see how it goes. And of course, just being in Africa, we've had very small presence in Africa in the past, and hopefully this can be like the start of something new and really like vital in helping us become truly global, because right now we don't have a presence in Africa. So stay tuned for like seeing more of this. Our targeted outreach will probably begin in the next month or so in Botswana, South Africa, Nigeria, and Zimbabwe. And also the team is looking for a new team leader right now. So if you are interested, shoot me an email.
Awesome. And we'll put it somewhere, link in bio or link in the YouTube, whatever, but we'll put it in somewhere for sure. Yeah, and I think with that, we can kind of go into Q&A, unless there's some other parting thoughts you guys want to leave us with before we jump into that.
projectaccess.org/join-r-team, and you find all the roles if you want to join, not necessarily as a GLT member immediately, but on a lower level. I started as campus officer, now I'm so basically under Andy's supervision, or Andy's predecessor, and now I'm here. So everyone can join anywhere and become whatever they want in Project Access.
I love that. Definitely do check it out. 100%.
I will just end on a note, Rebecca, on just like something that I think is really an emphasis that we've been trying to get across during this fireside is the sort of both innovation, ownership, and passion that the PA team members represent across the organization. We in the GLTs talk a lot about how we act as team members and how we also enable other team members. But I think really, if anyone is interested to join, or people in the organization are watching this and they're interested to look for new opportunities as well, I think I always say, and I said this in my blog post recently as well, that don't be afraid to be ambitious and step into new roles that might seem daunting. I think all GLT members, I felt that the first year I was in the GLT as well. It was very sort of a big responsibility. But I think in any position you have in PA, it's all about, we don't care that much about hard skills because those you will learn at the job. What we care about is sort of that passion for the project, the passion for the team, and the ability to think new about challenges that we face. And I would encourage anyone, so wrapping up Irona's marketing around join us page on our website, there is a good reason why many of us dedicate so much time to PA, and I would encourage everyone to check it out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so relatable because I myself have felt that. I was a program officer before, I stepped into my own position. And at first I was like, I don't want that big role, that responsibility. It's too soon. I've only been here like 3 months. But then one morning I woke up and I'm like, you know what? I want to take on the challenge. I think I have the passion for it. So I think what you said is definitely relatable, at least to one person. But yeah. And I think we can go into Q&A now because we have a few attendees here, and please feel free to ask some questions to our lovely GLT members. We do have one, and that's what is the strategic direction that you guys are going into for 2022? And anyone can just jump in. Yeah.
Does anyone else want to start? Because I can wrap up all of our strategic directions, but it's obviously the GLT that will execute and drive most of these projects. I will be working on financial sustainability and financial sustainable model with Edison and Jasmine. It's exciting, it's difficult. I had a workshop with Jasmine this morning for 3 hours to try to figure out some of our thoughts and brainstorm them and bring them down to paper. But most of the GLT members have some exciting plans for the next year.
Yeah.
So I can maybe kick this off if that's okay.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, we're now going to be expanding into a short list of European universities or universities in the EU. And to touch briefly on the reason for this, this is a problem that was identified even before I joined the GLT. It's that we only currently offer our mentees to get into select universities in the UK and the US. But not only are these universities all highly competitive with acceptance rates, sometimes below 10 or even 5%, they also are highly expensive, right? So the average cost of like a US degree is somewhere between like $60,000 and $70,000 a year. And for the UK, it's comparable as well. It can be for international students. So with these two factors, we're hoping to expand to European universities in order to allow our mentees to have more options in selecting and a greater success rate, hopefully, when applying for college. And after Europe, the next place that we will be targeting is the Asia Pacific region. And both of these regions offer a lot of really highly valuable universities that rank within the top 100 or even top 50 universities worldwide. So we'll be really excited about that. And that's from the campus side of things.
Awesome. Any partnerships on the horizon? Like, what are you guys strategically planning, I guess, for the next year?
Yeah, just to follow on from what Ingrid was saying, Rebecca. So for partnerships, our priority is very much looking at, how do we build a sustainable and financially sustainable structure for the organization. I think, there's some really exciting conversations here in the fact that there was a much easier way to go about how we build monetary partnerships, which a lot of organizations do right now. But I think what Project Access have always been very good at, which is, we don't ever want to compromise the quality of the programs and support package we deliver for our students. And we want to make sure that we never affect the landscape, and we're always supporting our mission, which is helping disadvantaged students into global leadership positions, which means, of course, we go about building these monetary partnerships in a much tougher way than normal. But I think it offers an exciting way because it allows us to almost set an example of, you can do things the right way and you can do it in a sustainable manner manner as well. So figuring out these pieces, as Ingrid mentioned, we spent like 3 hours this morning just brainstorming the entire history of the organizations, how do we build this? It's not easy, but I think it's also exciting in the sense that we're creating something really new here. And that's kind of what a very big priority for partnerships is making sure we own our future in being able to fund our operations and being able to own our decisions of, this is how we expand and this is how we operate. So do keep an eye out for how that journey goes, but lots to follow there.
We'll definitely keep an eye out, and I'm sure there'll be more marketing available to everyone on that journey for sure. And I think we have one question here as well. How does the GLT make decisions? And I think that's actually a very interesting question. I'd love to hear about how you guys think about it from a personal perspective.
I don't want to talk again, so I think that someone else can make I can wrap it up if I don't think anyone else has covered what I would say. Rona, Harrison, Liam, anyone else that haven't talked for a while?
I can.
We all lead busy lives. Harrison is in the center, so.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can talk. I would say that it is a good question, and we don't really have a sort of policy or vote by majority or a bunch of committees or anything. At some level, the board holds us accountable, and the board will make decisions, but mostly we really distribute authority to make decisions to each team member. So I will work with Ingrid to come to a decision, but I believe that I'm going to make the best decisions when I am responsible for them, and I'm sort of accountable for the results. And I think that's the same for the rest of the GLT, and that's sort of hopefully a culture that flows down into the rest of the organization, and that's the only way we can tackle these problems at scale and globally, because we have team members all over the world.
Yeah.
From a work culture perspective, I think another really cool thing is if a decision doesn't pertain to just one team, but it's overlapping, which really many have, and a decision that Harrison in product makes may have significant impacts on campus teams, for instance. We also don't have a clear thing where we're okay, Harrison's vote is 60% or whatever. We really just try and understand where the other teams are coming from. And this is why it's so nice to be part of the GLT, is you're in there as an individual. So your individual opinion matters, but also you standing in for whatever your team does matters. So we just listen to each other and we understand, is the point someone else is making valid? And if it is, then we understand that, and we alter our decision respectively. And it's really a different decision every time, in that we don't use the same model every time, because also every decision is quite unique. So yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that perspective. And I think, on that note, I think it's a good way to wrap up here, because, we've had a few GLT members already drop, but like I said before, we lead very busy lives. But thank you so much to everyone. And thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. And, if there's any other questions that we didn't get to that you might have had, feel free to drop them in the YouTube comments, because this will be going live exclusively on YouTube. You'll see it starting from midnight, Christmas Day, midnight EST. So very excited to have this holiday special fireside chat, very in theme. And thank you all again for joining.
Thank you, Rebecca, for organizing.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.